Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News. It's June 18th, 2025, and Barcelona are set to activate another economic lever in order to achieve the one-to-one rule. Also, Deco met with Nico Williams today in order to finalize an agreement with the player. And finally, Noah Darvich's value continues to rise, and Barcelona are set to benefit from that increase. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Bo. This is the Barca News Live podcast. My favorite days. Podcasts are my favorite days. Which is on every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, where not only do we discuss Barcelona news, but of course, I get to interact with you lovely people in the chat section by reading your comments, answering your questions, and getting the discussion going. And this is why podcast days are my favorite days, because I get to interact with you people. Anyways, for those of you who will be watching when the podcast ends, I will be putting timestamps in the description, chapters in the timeline, in case you do want to skip through the discussion. I suggest you don't. The discussion is pretty cool. People have always great things to say in the comment section. If you are looking for any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise, make sure to Goal Kids, Give Back, or Fanatics. If you are looking to place any sports bets, make sure to bet us. All links are down below in the description. And click on them, you get access to some pretty cool deals and offers, courtesy of course, yours truly, Barca News. All right, having said all that, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. I already said that. I did. So let's start with the news. And as always, the first segment of this podcast is several bits of news combined together. It started with, ladies and gentlemen, Joan Garcia. Joan Garcia is officially a Barcelona player. As I announced in yesterday's video, Joan Garcia had returned from vacation. He was back in the city of Barcelona. And of course, up to that point, Barcelona had already reached an agreement with the player where both parties signed the contract and Joan Garcia agreed to join Barcelona. Also, Barcelona had already activated the release clause of Joan Garcia, paying the 25 million euros to La Liga. So then the player can use that 25 million euros and break his contract. So everything was set. Joan Garcia was a Barcelona player, but of course, it was pending the official announcement of FC Barcelona. And as I told you in yesterday's video, the reason why Barcelona had not made this signing official was in order to respect the wishes of the player, because Joan Garcia had told Barcelona, hey, don't announce anything yet. First, I want to say goodbye to my team because Espanyol is his boyhood team. Once I've done that, you can make the announcement. And well, lo and behold, today, Joan Garcia posted a video on his social media accounts. That's the screenshot of that video where he officially said goodbye to Espanyol, to his teammates, all his coaches throughout the academy and the first team, and of course to his now they're his former teammates, said goodbye to them. And once he did that, Barcelona said, all right, you did your goodbye. It's my turn. And Barcelona officially making the announcement that Joan Garcia is Barcelona's newest signing. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new goalkeeper, Joan Garcia. I'd have to say, I'm very excited to see what he has to offer because we saw what he had offered to Espanyol. The most stops in La Liga, one of the most promising, if not the most promising goalkeeper in La Liga. And I can't wait to see what he will do for Barcelona. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we already knew, now made official, which is that Joan Garcia is a Barcelona player. Now, this is not the only news that's part of the first segment. The other news, and you might have read it in the title of this podcast, is in regards to the financial fair play, because Barcelona are set to activate another economic lever. Now, if you might be wondering, what the hell is an economic lever? Because you haven't been watching this channel, don't worry. I'll explain. 2 or 3 summers ago, Barcelona sold assets, their own assets, like, for example, their own TV rights, 49% of their TV rights in exchange for money in order to keep the club afloat. And they dubbed that economic levers. Another economic lever that Barcelona had activated was the sale of 49% of Barca Vision. They sold it to different investors and they generated money. again, to keep the club afloat. And some of the shares that Barca Vision were sold to a German investment fund called Libero. Now, as you know by now, Libero made its first payment. Then they were set to make 2 more payments, and they defaulted. They didn't pay those. So what did Barcelona do? They started looking for new investors to buy the portion that Libero had originally bought but didn't pay for. Well, the latest news is that Barcelona have found a new investor. This investor is European. We don't know which company it is exactly, but Barcelona will be selling the portion of Barca Vision that was originally bought by Libero to this new investor in exchange for 40 million euros. Now, why is this important? It's important because it's expected that once Barcelona complete this deal, which is set to be completed by the end of June, that Barcelona will have enough to achieve the 1-1 rule. Now, this is the breakdown right now of Barca Vision. Again, the club socios approved the sale of 49% of Barca Vision, and this is how Barcelona have distributed it. Blaugrana Invest own 18.96% of Barca Vision. Vestigia, 4.93%. Helgas, 14.73%. Orpheus Media, 1.83%. Aramark, 6.13%. And then finally, this new investor, whoever it may be, will buy the remainder of the stocks, making the full 49% of Barca Vision. And again, in exchange for 40 million euros that Barcelona will use to achieve the 1-1 rule. Now, I want to be optimistic and say that's what's going to happen. But at this point, I'll believe it when I see it, because how many times have we heard we're achieving the 1-1 rule only to find out that, well, we're not achieving the 1-1 rule. By the way, I still think the whole Barca Vision is just a ploy, that it's some kind of scam that we're being sold, because so far, supposedly Barca Vision was going to be producing all these kind of digital products, and it was going to create Barcelona all kinds of money. And so far, they haven't produced anything. It's just like a shell company that somehow Barcelona are getting money for selling to other investors. And I'm like, it sounds fishy to me. Honestly, I think it's just a ploy to achieve financial fair play. For example, the last investor was Aramark. If you don't know who Aramark is, it's a catering company. Why would you want to partner up with a catering company to produce digital products? That doesn't make sense to me. Now, of course, after Barcelona sold part of Barca Vision to Aramark, it was announced that Aramark was going to be the official caterer of the new Spotify Camp Nou. And this is why I say this whole thing sounds fishy to me. I think it was kind of like, all right, pay us money so you can become the official caterer and you can, become business partners with us. And for that money, we'll just pretend that you bought part of Barca Vision and we'll sneak it through, I guess, through Barca, under the Barca Vision structure. Because, again, who the hell wants to invest in Barca Vision? It's literally nothing. It's like, hasn't produced anything. It hasn't done anything. So I still think Barca Vision is just one big ploy to just achieve the financial fair play. Hopefully I'm wrong, because, of course, if it is ploy, that's illegal, right? It's fraud. But anyways, hopefully I'm wrong. The news is that Barcelona have found a new investor to buy the shares that Libero was supposed to pay for, and they're going to get 40 million euros, and that will help achieve the 1-1 rule. And that's very important for the next segment. So keep that in mind. 1-1 rule. Next segment, which is, of course, is in regards to Nico Williams. But let's do the comment section, and then we are going to talk about the other big bombshell of today, which is Deco's meeting with Nico Williams. And Mike Valencia says, "Que onda, Mo? This summer is heating up like La Latina Mamis in Miami." All right. Look, I love Latinas, so I don't care if they're in Miami, if they're in New York, if they're in freaking Arkansas. I don't know if there's any Latinas in Arkansas. And if there were, they probably already got deported. Thanks a lot, Trump. But I do love me some Latinas. And yes, this summer is heated up like Latinas everywhere, not just in Miami. Abdul Kababa says, "Mo, I'm from Turkey. Barcelona will sign Nico." I got news about that. Just wait. Not the Gamer says, "Yo, Mo, what happened to Libero?" Well, Barcelona filed a lawsuit because, Libero didn't pay. They only made the first payment. They didn't make the second and third payment. and with any lawsuit, it's going to take a while, right? It's going to take maybe a year, 2, 3, 4. Justice moves very, very slow. We'll see what happens, but that's what happened. And Shin, my man Shin says, cocked and locked on the crazy news soon to come from the Go to Barcelona Use It updates, Mo. Well, thank you, my friend. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you always supporting the channel. By the way, I'm going to Austin for the 4th of July weekend. So Shin or anyone else who's in Texas and happens to be in Austin, let me know. I would love to meet you guys. Maybe have a beer or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. It is 4th of July weekend after all. But yeah. That's the news. I know. I think, Shin, you said you're in Houston, which, no, you said you're in San Antonio, which I know it's not Austin. I know. But I don't know. Maybe you're there for the weekend. Let me know. Anyone else in the Austin area or who's going to be in the Austin area for the July 4th weekend, let me know. I will be in Texas. I would love to meet you guys. And Brex99 says, Mo, where's all the money going? What's going? 30 deals plus 1 billion Nike contract and a lot more loans. Where is all that? We can only trigger a 25 million clause and still struggle with financial fair play. Well, you have to understand, my friend, just because you made a sale doesn't mean that you get to use that money for whatever. You still have expenses, right? If you tomorrow sell your car for $5,000, doesn't mean you can then go and just spend the $5,000 or whatever. You still have to pay your rent. You still have to pay your electricity, your water, your groceries, your dog food, your health insurance. Barcelona still has expenses. So just because they're making deals and they're making money doesn't mean that all that money is spending money. They still have expenses. They still have debt to pay. Still have player salaries to pay. Board of director teams to pay. Spotify Camp No renovation. You still have a lot of things to pay. So that's why. And plus, the Nike deal, we still don't know how much money we made because according to Laporta, he said it's the best deal in history. People were like, why is it the best deal in history? And he said, trust me, bro. Just trust me. I was like, all right. Well, in that case, hey, ladies, I have a 12-inch you-know-what. What's the proof? Trust me. Just trust me, okay? I have a 12-inch you-know-what. And that's the thing, how it works. But God forbid I said anything bad about Laporta because, ladies and gentlemen, people go mad in the comment section. They're like, bro, you hate Laporta. You hate Barca. You're a Madrid fan. How dare you say something about John Laporta? Triple X says, breaking, Nico has made an inquiry to Perez to further extend Trent's contract because he believes Trent is a better fit for Madrid and not because of his own personal cooking. By the way, I had no idea that Trent had already been included in the squad for the Club World Cup. Today I was kind of like just zooming the news, and then I saw like the Club World Cup. I went in, I saw the matches. I saw Madrid drew with Al Hilal. What a joke. I clicked on their lineup, and there I see Trent is already in the lineup. I see Huijsen is already in the lineup. And I was like, oh, shit, okay. Well, I guess they're good to go. And that's the crazy thing, right? Because people were always like, whoa, what are we going to do? They signed Mbappe. And I was like, there's nothing to do, man. We just got to worry about us. And, well, lo and behold, not only do we have to worry about us, it's Madrid who's worried about who we sign. Because they went from we have the best project in the world, we're going to win a sextuple. We just all of a sudden, too, we need a new coach. We need new staff. We need a new defender. We need a new fullback. We need a new midfielder. We need a new attacker. All of a sudden, they went from we have the full project to we need half of the world just so we can compete with Barcelona. So don't ever worry about what Madrid are doing. We only have to worry about what we're doing. And ladies and gentlemen, we are building one of the best projects in the entire world. Abbas says, hello, Mo, which editing tool you use for your videos? I've just started my own channel and Facebook page. That is amazing. Congratulations on starting your own page. I started using Filmora. I started using Filmora to edit. And then I kind of moved to OBS. Well, I still use Filmora. Who am I kidding? I still use Filmora, but I also use OBS. And OBS is technically a streaming platform, which I'm not using for the podcast yet because I still have a subscription with StreamYard. But once StreamYard expires, I'll start using OBS for streaming as well. But I also use OBS for filming. Because it's just, there's a lot of integrated tools. You know, you can put in the slides, take them out, the intro, the outro, blah, blah, blah. You can do all that with just buttons. So sometimes I'll just use OBS like I'm streaming. I'll have the OBS running and I'm just like talking into the mic and hitting all these buttons and all this shit is happening. And then when I'm done, I'll run it through Filmora, and maybe I'll like take out some sections where I'm just like, I say something wrong, or I forget something, or I sneeze. It happens a lot. I have really bad allergies. So like half of my videos is literally editing out me sneezing, because I'll be like, all right, well, today, financial fair play. You know, that's pretty much half it. So Filmora and OBS, that's kind of what I use. But congratulations on starting your own channel. Drop the name of the channel in the chat section. I would love to follow it and check out your content. And for everyone else, you know, if you want to follow his content, do it. Anyways, let's get back to the news, because now we have to talk about the big Bob show. Because ladies and gentlemen, Barcelona are closing in on the signing of Nico Williams. I'll repeat, Barcelona are closing in on the signing of Nico Williams. And once I'm done with this segment, you'll know what I mean, because this is happening. This is not summer 2024. This is not a rumor mill. This is not hopes and dreams. This is real. The signing of Nico Williams is happening. And Barcelona are working very, very hard to make this happen. Now, as you know by now, it all started when Nico Williams called up his agent and said, look here, Felix Steintam, I don't care that Chelsea wants me. I don't care that Arsenal want me. I don't care that Bayern Munich wants me. I don't care that they all offer me way more money than Barcelona could ever offer me. I only want to go to Barca and Barcelona only. And I'm willing to accept whatever they offer me, even if they offer me to pay me with Kinder eggs. By the way, if you haven't had Kinder eggs, they're delicious. So this is what Felix Steintam did. Took a flight to Barcelona, met with Deco, and relayed that message to Deco. Deco then relayed the message to Laporta, and Laporta said, hey, let's sign him. Because who gives a shit about his skills? Who gives a shit about his talent? Who gives a shit about whether he fits or not? The important thing is that my ego is soothed. Last summer, he said no to us, and my ego was hurt. But now he made the first step. So now my ego's healed. So who gives a shit about everything else? Let's make Nico Williams a priority. That is, of course, is great news, because as I've said before, Nico Williams is the best fit for Barcelona. And well, now that he is the number one priority ahead of Luis Diaz, Sir Rashford, Lookman, and everyone else, Deco today flew to Ibiza. And no, it wasn't to do coke with hookers. It was to meet Nico Williams, because that's where Nico Williams is currently vacationing, in Ibiza. Man, it must be nice to be a player with lots of money. But Deco flew to Ibiza, met with Nico Williams in order to negotiate the contract with the player. Now, last summer, Barcelona offered Nico Williams a contract until 2030 with a 12 million euro salary gross. In other words, the player would net 6 million euros, because yes, that's how high taxes are in Spain. Now, right now, they're talking about doing a longer contract, possibly till 2031, maybe more, with a lower salary. Why? To be able to divide his salary over more years. That way, you can fit it under the financial fair play. For example, if you offer a player 100 million euros contract over 2 years, that's 50 million euro per year that you have to have on your financial fair play. But if you offer to pay him 100 million over 5 years, now we're talking about 20 million per year. That's a lot easier to fit into your financial fair play. So that's what it is. Barcelona are now talking about offering Nico a longer contract than what they offered him last summer, with a lower salary to divide it, fit it under the financial fair play. However, that salary would be ascending. In other words, with every season, his salary would go up. In that way, since initially it's lower, the salary is lower initially, eventually by the time his contract expires, he would end up making the same as the original deal, but it will be easier to fit under the financial fair play, because right now, when the club is still not financially super healthy, you could fit that lower salary, but later on, when that salary goes up, you could still fit it, because by then, Barcelona will be doing much better financially speaking. Also, his salary would include bonuses for performances, kind of like what they've offered Lamine Yamal. And it's reported that Barcelona are very, very close on finalizing this agreement. In other words, maybe by tomorrow, the day after, the contract should be finalized, Nico agreement should be in place, and it's all going to be good to go. Now, Nico Williams is expected to notify Athletic Club de Bilbao in the next few days that he will not be staying with them. So this is real. This is happening. An agreement is very close to being reached with the player. The player is very close to telling his club, bye, I'm out of here. And here where it gets even more serious. Barcelona are looking to finalize all of this, not just the agreement with the player, but also paying his release clause in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Why do you say 2 to 3 weeks? Because July 13th is when the preseason starts. And Barcelona want Nico Williams to start the preseason with Barcelona for 2 reasons. Number one, because of course you want him to be there from day one, learning Flick's system, philosophy, blah, 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 blah. And number two, they don't want to cause any inconveniences for Nico, because if Nico in the next few days goes and tells Athletic Club Bilbao, bye, I'm out, and the next thing you know, he's not signed by the preseason and he has to show up to the preseason with Athletic Club Bilbao, that's going to be a very uncomfortable thing to do, right? It's kind of like when you live with your girlfriend, you break up with her, and you still have a lease, and next thing you know, you still have to live with her, even though you're not with her. That's a pretty uncomfortable situation. So Barcelona are looking to finalize everything in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And there's more. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Barcelona are already in talks with La Liga to figure out what they need to do to register Nico Williams. Because it's not just about reaching an agreement with him. It's not just about paying the release clause. They also have to register him. So right now, Barcelona are working on figuring out what they need to do to register the contract. And once that's all cleared with La Liga, Barcelona will pay the release clause to Athletic Club de Bilbao. So right now, they're finalizing the agreement with Nico. Once that's done, Nico will tell his club. Barcelona will figure out how to clear space on the wage bill. And once that's approved and done, Barcelona will trigger the release clause. And all of that is expected to be completed in the next 2 to 3 weeks, because Barcelona want Nico Williams there on July 13th, starting the preseason with Flick and his new teammates. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is happening. This is real. This is happening. And all I have to say is be ready. Be ready. All right, we do have a donation from Shane, who's always very, very generous with his donations. And I'm glad that he's no longer changing his name every other week. I appreciate that shit. Says, so I live by you, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. On that, I was watching some Pro Madrid news videos last night, and so far as I can tell, a lot of them are afraid of us signing Nico because he'll cook Trent. I mean, he'll cook anyone. I mean, can you imagine? All right, Barcelona with just Lamine Yamal on the right. And again, not to take anything away from Rafinha, because he had an absolutely spectacular season. But Rafinha mostly attacked from the middle. Okay, he always cut through the middle. So we technically didn't have much on the left. But with Lamine Yamal on the right by himself, Barcelona were able to take 3 trophies home and make it all the way to the semis of the Champions League, to the semifinals. Can you imagine with Lamine on the right and then Nico on the left, and they're both cooking, and then Rafinha still going through the middle? Woo! And Pedri behind Rafinha, filtering those balls. My goodness. And if Lewandowski was able to score 42 goals with just Lamine feeding him balls from the right, can you imagine what Lewandowski will do with Lamine and Nico feeding him balls, and Rafinha from behind, and Pedri? Because let's not forget, Lewandowski needs players around him. He's a classic center forward. He needs players to feed him the balls. And now he's going to have more players feeding him balls. I know. I'm opening myself to a bunch of jokes. I'll get it. But can you imagine with Lewandowski with more players feeding him the ball in the penalty box? Whew, my goodness. We're talking about maybe a 50-plus goal season. And Ronaldo says, are you saying that Barca right now have money to pay for Nico? I talked about that during yesterday's video. Barcelona are exploring 2 options. The number one option is to negotiate with Athletic Club Bilbao and say, hey, are you okay with us paying the release clause in installments? Which I'm going to tell you now, it's going to be a big, hard no. Okay? It's It's kind of like when you at the club and you see like the hottest girl there and you're like, I'm going to go ask her out. She's going to say no, but I'm going to ask her out anyway. That's kind of like it. The other option is to get a loan, which is something that Barcelona had already studied and considered last summer. Okay? And this is the more viable option, of course. Now, Barcelona have a higher credit rating now than last summer because remember, I talked about this last podcast on Monday. Barcelona's credit rating just went up. So they should be able to negotiate a more favorable loan to pay for Nico's release clause. So those are the two options that Barcelona are considering. But in short, yes, Barcelona don't have a problem paying the release clause. Right now, what they need to figure out is how to register the player. All right. Let's see. Let's do a couple more comments, and then we'll do the next bit of news. It's in regards to your favorite midfielder, Oriol Romeu. Jerry says, I keep on hearing about financial huge boosts, but yet you're still suffering financial fair play rules and struggling to sign and register players. Seems like this financial crisis is not ending anytime soon. Okay. Let me make a distinction, and this distinction is very important. Having money versus having financial fair play are two different things. Okay? Money is how much money you have. Financial fair play is how much you're allowed to spend. Okay? There's two different things. That's very important. For example, your parents give you $100 as a allowance. I don't know. You got good grades. You mowed the lawn. You took out the trash. You washed the dishes. They give you $100. And they tell you you can only spend $20 out of that $100 on candy. And the other 80, you have to save or maybe buy something useful like shoes or clothes or school supplies, right? So how much money you have? You have $100. How much money you're allowed to spend on candy is only $20, right? It's kind of the same thing. How much money you have is one thing. How much money you're allowed to spend on signings, financial fair play, or candy, completely different, right? So two different things. That's a very important distinction. Cannot stress that enough. And now it says, I can't wait to see us signing Nico and what happens in the upcoming Clásicos against the famous Trent Alexander-Arnold, Balde, Nico, and Rafinha overloading him. Yeah. I cannot wait either. And Jerry says, Mo, thanks for all the information. This is one of the channels I get my Barca news from, and you're spot on. Well, thank you, my friend. I appreciate you watching the channel. And Rogelio says, Laporta and Deco scamming. I'm not saying that they are, but to me, it just does not smell. Barca's vision just does not smell good. It's like, it smells fishy. And when it smells fishy, something's up. It's kind of like, having a good night. You go home with someone, you're like, I'm not a lab. I cannot confirm that you have a disease, but something's up. Okay? Something's up. Anyways, let's do the next bit of news. And it's in regards to you guys' favorite midfielder, the number one midfielder, number one defensive midfielder in the world, Oriol Romeu. Of course, I'm saying that jokingly. Please don't comment, oh my God, I can't believe Mo thinks Romeu is the best in the world. Anyways, but we have to talk about Oriol Romeu because you might have forgotten, but he's actually still a Barcelona player. He spent this last season on loan with Girona. His contract expires in the summer of 2026. And so far, Girona have not expressed any interest in activating the option to buy and keeping Oriol Romeu. In other words, Romeu, in about 12 days, June 30th, his loan will officially expire, and he will be back in Barcelona as an FC Barcelona player. Now, of course, Flick does not count on Oriol Romeu, and Oriol Romeu knows that. And, of course, Oriol Romeu will not be looking to make things hard. He's not going to be like, I'm staying. I don't care what you guys say. I have a contract. Pay me, blah, blah, blah. Oriol Romeu is open to leave. After all, the reason he left on loan was to make things easier for the club. He knew he wasn't going to be getting any minutes, and despite the club not pushing him out, because remember, when Flick was signed, he said, I want everybody in the preseason. I don't care who they are. I'm going to try everyone out, and whoever convinces me stays, and whoever doesn't leaves. We're starting from scratch. That included Romeu. That included Oriol Romeu participating in the preseason, but he kind of knew, like, look, we have Bernal, Casado, Frankie, Pedri, Gabi, apparently he knew that, and Deco did it, and he went and signed Olmo, but whatever. He knew there wasn't going to be space for him, so he made things easy for the club. He himself got the loan offer from Girona and came to the club and said, look, I got a loan offer. I know I'm not going to get minutes. I'm just going to go there. And the club was like, all right, Well, Romeu now is kind of in the same position. He knows they don't count on him. He's not looking to make things difficult. So he is set to meet with Deco, and it's reported that during that meeting, Barcelona will agree with Romeu on a friendly contract rescission. This is not like, fuck you, we hate you, we're constantly contract. This is a friendly rescission, like, hey, we don't count on you. And the player saying, look, I understand, that's fine. Let's just cancel the contract, and then I'll go and negotiate with someone else. Because at this point, not only does Romeu understand that he's not going to be getting minutes, but also Barcelona understand that the chances of them making money off his transfer to somewhere else are almost zero. So they know they're not going to make money off his sale. He knows he's not going to be getting minutes. So the two will be meeting pretty soon in order to discuss a friendly contract rescission, which will allow Oriol Romeu to leave as a free agent and negotiate with whatever club he might want to, including Girona. Right? Girona might be like, look, we can't afford to pay anything for him, so we'll just wait for him to cancel his contract and he can come for free. Because after all, Girona are pretty broke. If you think we're broke, well, it's a whole other level of broke. But anyways, let's do more comments, and then we are going to talk about another midfielder, which is Noah Darvich. Obeis Leonon says, Vizca Barça, my friend, please, I wish to ask, has Barcelona closed their interest on the Nico Williams? No. I just told you. Deco met with Nico today. So no. The answer is no. All right, let's see. Joao de Almeida says, is Chelsea still interested in Casado? Because selling him for 30 mil will help us get closer to... There's no plan to sell Casado. So it doesn't matter who's interested in him, if it's Chelsea or whomever. By the way, asking if Chelsea is interested in someone is like asking, is tomorrow the sun going to rise? I mean, the answer is probably yes, because it's fucking Chelsea. They're interested in everybody. I mean, I got an email yesterday. They were interested in signing my dog. And I said, look, my dog is 6. He's past his prime technically. Plus, he's more of a jiu-jitsu dog. He likes to get on his back, and he wrestles on his back like this. So I was like, no, but thank you for the interest. They were not happy. But, it happens. It happens. Let's see. Richard says, let's go. If we get Nico, it's a wrap for Trent at Madrid. Amen, my friend. And Eduardo says, when are we hitting the 1-1? Oh, I keep hearing we are there, then not there. Well, supposedly, once Barcelona sell this portion of Libero, a Barca vision that they had sold to Libero to this new investor, supposedly we'll reach the 1-1. Hopefully. I wish so. I hope so. I pray so. Because we need it. Falcon Vizio says, I'm looking for the days we never have to hear about financial fair play. Unfortunately, financial fair play is part of every transfer market, whether it be summer or winter. So we're always going to be hearing about the financial fair play. And Zulfikar says, hi, Mo. I'm from area. Let's go. What are your sources for the news you share with us in general? There are plenty. It just depends, right? It depends who we're talking about. Are we talking about something in the German market, for example? That will be Bild. Bild is probably the most reliable source for German news. If we're talking about maybe Brazil market, Joaquim Piera, that's probably your most reliable source as far as like Brazilian players and what's happening. So it just depends. It depends what are we talking about. If we're talking about like people close to Barcelona, maybe someone like Gerard Romero. So yeah, it just depends, right? But I usually like to follow and read sources of reporters who are specialized in something. For example, Fabrizio Romano, that's probably the person who's most reliable that people usually like to count on. But I don't follow his news too much because Fabrizio Romano covers that entire European market. So by the time the news gets to him, and by then it's like 99% for sure true, but by that time the news gets to him, someone who was specialized in a certain market probably reported about it 20 times. Okay, for example, Joan Garcia. Let's take that for example, right? Fabrizio Romano eventually reported that Barcelona had reached an agreement with Joan Garcia, right? But by then, reporters who were much closer to Barcelona had already reported that Barcelona had changed their minds and decided that, yes, they are going to sign a goalkeeper. Then B, that Barcelona had considered Joan Garcia the perfect market opportunity. Then C, that Barcelona had approached Juan Garcia and started talking. That D, that Barcelona made an official offer to Juan Garcia and that he was going to consider it. Then D, that Juan Garcia had, was considering all the offers he had, and Barcelona was the one that was most attractive. And then Juan Garcia was like, okay, let's do it. His attorney flies to Barcelona, agreements get signed, and then Fabrizio Romano reports about it. But by then, all these reporters who are close to Barcelona had been already talking about this for weeks, right? But, their work goes unnoticed, and people are just like, oh, Fabrizio Romano said, here we go, so that's it. And it's like, all right, yeah, he's saying it, and it's true, and it's reliable. But there's all these other reporters doing work on the ground, which is, I would say, even more valuable, because these people, the way they get their news, they're literally like hitting the streets every day, and that's how they get their news. And their work has to be recognized, right? I mean, for example, when they caught Deco coming out of the hotel after meeting with Nico Williams' agent, Carlos Monfort, the way he found out about that, he was literally just camped out outside this famous hotel where Deco likes to go have lunch. And he's just sitting there. He doesn't know what's going to happen. He doesn't know what he's going to see. He's just there, sitting all day, just like, oh, shit, who's that? Oh, my God, it's Deco. Oh, shit, who's that? Oh, my God, it's Nico Williams' agent. Boom, we have a story, right? And then like 2 days later, Fabrizio Romano, Deco and Nico, it is like everybody's, Fabrizio Romano said it. It's like, bro, the one who broke the story was Carlos Monfort. He's the guy who was there, like camped out, just waiting for shit to happen. Like, how many days was he outside that hotel? How many weeks was he outside that hotel until he finally saw something worth reporting on? So that's why I like reporters who are more specialized per market, because those guys usually are hitting the streets and they know stuff way before the mainstream reporters know about it. So, but anyway, it just depends. It just depends. But let's do the last bit of news. Because we do have to talk about Noah Darvich. Because, ladies and gentlemen, Noah Darvich's value is currently going up, and this presents Barcelona a great market opportunity. Now, what am I talking about? Noah Darvich is someone that Barcelona signed 2 seasons ago, summer of 2023. He came to Barcelona with this huge, big hype that he was going to be, the next big thing, the next Pedri, the next Xavi, Iniesta, whatever, right? Because he had performed remarkably well with Germany in the Under-17 World Cup. So Barcelona signed him with lots of fanfare, lots of hope. But 2 seasons later, Noah Darvich has failed to impress with Barcelona. And as such, Barcelona have kind of said, okay, we give up. Let's put him on the transfer market. Now, Flick is insisting that he still wants Noah Darvich to participate in the preseason. But Barcelona at this point are saying, look, he's had 2 seasons. He hasn't even impressed us one bit. Let's sell him. Now, what's happening right now is that Noah Darvich is currently playing with Germany's under-19 youth team. He just played with England. Against England, not with England. He's German. Against England, he scored a goal, provided an assist, had a 92% pass accuracy, had a 100% cross and long pass accuracy. So this guy continues to impress, just completely impressed with the German team, with any German team that's under 17 or under 19. But for some reason, he just can't do that with Barca Athletic. So that's, of course, on one hand, is bad news, because what's going on? Like, why does he keep doing amazing with Germany and then terrible with Barca? But on the other hand, it's good news, because as he continues to do well, obviously his value will continue to go up. And as you know, there's already German teams interested in him, including Dortmund and Bayer Leverkusen. 2 teams are very interested in him. So most likely Barcelona will be putting him on the market this summer. And hopefully, with his current performance in the under-19 championship, his value will go up, and Barcelona will be making money off his transfer, again, despite Hansi Flick wanting to try him out during the preseason. All right, that is all the news. Let's do more comments, and then we will end the live stream. But we do have another donation from Shin. Another donation says, can we get a we are not spending 88 mil? No, it's 85 for Diaz. In angry voice, couldn't help it. Plus, my boy, not the gamer, was asking for it too. All right. It's a serious time. You know what? I need a soundboard. I should work on incorporating that. This is the time where you put the serious music. Like when the big news networks, do breaking news, and it's like, play the serious music. So imagine serious music is playing. Actually, I think like the StreamYard has some serious music. Oh well, I don't know about this. All right, let's see. Oh, that's serious. Let's try this one. Definitely not serious. How about this one? Definitely not serious. How about this one? Oh, we'll use it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, breaking news from New York, New York. Barcelona will not, I repeat, will not pay 85 million euros for the signing of Luis Diaz. Again, Barcelona will not pay 85 million euros for the signing of Luis Diaz. Damn, that was a terrible music. I need a soundboard. But I hope that helped. Let's see. What else? Edward Pon says, apparently Juventus are after Ronald Araujo. I mean, Juventus were already after Ronald Araujo. I just realized there's a hole on my shirt. Look at this shit, guys. We need more subscriptions. Hit the subscribe button. Your boy Mo needs a new t-shirt. This is bad. Anyways, so Juventus were already after Ronald Araujo. They actually came very close to taking him. The player had already agreed to join them. Their coach had called Ronald Araujo, explained the project. He was like, all right, sign me up. Sounds like Juventus is a great place to go and commit stupid fouls and get red carded. And Araujo told Barcelona, hey, like, I want to leave. And then Deco was like, no, don't leave. You're amazing. We always count on you to fuck things up. So please stay. And then he renewed him until 2031. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're still interested, because they're already interested. Richard says, Nico, Coutinho, Lamine and Pedri is younger and more lethal than Vini, Mbappe, Rodri, and Bellingham any day. Let's go. I mean, at this point, given how Madrid played last season, I think my 80-year-old grandma is more lethal than Vini and Bellingham and Rodri. Maybe not Mbappe. Mbappe still had a decent season. I'm not going to talk trash about him. Worthy by Grace says, in that case, we apparently don't have money nor fair play. If we might look at get a loan based on improved credit. Thanks for your content, Mo. Well, thank you, my friend. I mean, loans are part of how business operate. Most businesses don't really use their own capital. They always take out loans. So I wouldn't say that necessarily is a sign that we don't have money. Actually, most signings are made through loans. And like I said, just businesses mostly operate by loans. Like, for example, if you go to a car dealership, you're not buying the car from the dealership. You're buying it from the bank. Because car dealerships don't actually own the cars. They take out loans on them. So that's why they're so in a hurry to sell it to you, so they can pay back the loan and then keep the difference as profit. But I wouldn't say the fact that Barcelona are getting a loan is a sign that they're broke. They are broke, but this is not the sign of it. Because loans happen all the time in signings. Zach Urban says, hey, Mo, what's the point of a loan with an obligation to buy? It sounds like a bad deal since nothing guarantees you'll have the funds next year. Right. So there are punishments included in the contract where if the other club does not buy the player, they still have to pay you a fee. So if they don't have the money by the next season, they still end up paying you something. It's not going to be as much as the obligation to buy, but they'll pay you something. For example, that happened with Trincao. Yeah, Trincao. Trincao, we had an obligation to buy with Wolverhampton. Wolverhampton was like, sorry, we don't want him here. Take him back. And they ended up paying a fee to Barcelona. I think it was like 3 million or something like that for not following through their obligation to buy, because at the end of the day, you're not following through the contract you agreed to, and there are penalties to not abiding by a contract you signed. So Tunde says, Mo, please, why is the financial fair play affecting Barca the most while Madrid keep making big signings, or are they above the financial fair play? It's simple. It's not a conspiracy. I've talked about this before. Not everything is a conspiracy. Not everything's like, oh my God, they're out to get us. It's simple. Madrid did way better managing their money than we did. That's all. So, what happened with Barcelona is Barcelona's wage bill was incredibly high. Under Bartomeu, it reached a point where we were spending 900 million on salaries. 90% of the money we were making, we were spending it on salaries. What happens? COVID hits. All of a sudden, your income shrinks, right? Because people are not going to the stadium. They're not buying tickets. They're not buying merchandise. In fact, matches were suspended for several months, so you're not even making money off TV rights. So you were making this much, and you were spending this much. And all of a sudden, COVID hits, and you're making this much. But you're still spending this much. You're earning a lot less, but you're still spending the same because those contracts did not disappear. The players' salaries did not disappear. You still have to pay them. So what happened is, since you're making way less than what you were spending, all of a sudden you have to borrow money. So now Barcelona were in debt. Madrid did not have that problem. Madrid were not spending most of their money on salaries. Madrid were making this much and spending this much. So when COVID hit and their income shrunk, they were still making more than they were spending, right? It's kind of like two people, both each makes $1,000 a month. One guy is spending $900 a month, gets fired. Now he's still spending $900 a month, but he's not making $1,000. Other guy makes $1,000 a month, but only spends $100 a month, gets fired. Now he's only spending $100 a month. Who's gonna have more debt? The guy who's still paying $900 a month in expenses, despite not having a job, or the guy who's only paying $100 in expenses despite not having a job? So it's not a conspiracy. We were just under terrible management. Bartomeu mismanaged the club, mismanaged our money. This is why we're paying for it. DB says, haha, buy more players is the only solution for Real Madrid. Real Madrid have to go and spend money, go get more players. How many more? That's the real question. I mean, again, yeah, that's what Madrid does. That's what Madrid have always done. Sign. And that's why every time when people were like, Mo, what are we going to do? They signed Bellingham. I was like, I don't care. They've always been signing big players. Who's going to have to worry about us? Oh, Mo, they signed Mbappe. What should we do? Same exact answer. Now, people still asking me that question. Well, what do we do? They signed Trent and Hoysen and Mastantuono, and doesn't matter. Madrid have always had more money to sign. Madrid have always signed more players. All we have to do is worry about us. And when we worry about us, which is something we didn't do under Bartomeu, because Bartomeu did start engaging in that game. Oh, Madrid signed this, so we have to sign that. Oh, they signed, what's his name? I forgot his name. Welsh guy. Whatever. Oh, we got to sign Dembele. Oh, Madrid signed this guy. Oh, we got to sign Griezmann. Oh, Madrid. Once we start playing that game, we're going to lose. So we only have to worry about what we actually need to improve our team versus, oh, what is Madrid doing? You know, let them worry about that. We worry about ourselves. Charles says, yo, Barca Athletics just sucks, man. That's why they got relegated. Why are we selling Noah Darvich? Because he sucks. And he's part of the problem why Barca Athletic got relegated. Dr. Bahradwaj says, Laporta said there will be more signings. Any idea, Mo, who they going to be the other than Joan and Nico? That's a good question. Right now, I cannot think of who it could be. And Deco said the same thing. Deco said Barca could make 3 signings. Who? I don't know. Right now, I'm not aware of Barcelona talking to anyone. I mean, the only one who could be a possibility would be maybe Rashford or Perisic, because the two of them have offered themselves. But I'm not sure, honestly. I'm not sure. Let's see. Kurt says, hi, Mo from Boston. All right, Boston. How Flick is going to manage Rafinha, Nico, Olmo, and Fermin? I think a great. I mean, my guess is going to be that it's going to be Lamine on the right, Nico on the left, Rafinha as an attacking mid, and obviously Lewandowski as a number 9. Olmo would probably rotate with Rafinha. Olmo could probably rotate with Lewy as well as a false 9. Rafinha could rotate with Lamine and Nico, to give them rest because he can play on both sides. And my guess is Fermin's minutes will be limited, which is unfortunate. And this is why, till this day, I will insist We did not need to sign Dani Olmo. I said that last summer. People lost their shit. But I think time has proven me right that we did not need to spend 60 million euros on a player, on a position, that was stacked. This is like going out there and spending 60 million euros on a center back when we already have 6 on the team. It just does not make any sense to me. And let's hope that Fermin doesn't end up leaving, because remember, Fermin didn't cost us any money. Clubs are willing to pay up to 70 million for him. He would probably be an easy sale. Let's hope that doesn't happen, because I would much rather that keep Fermin over Olmo, because we've seen how much more reliable Fermin is over Olmo. Don't get me wrong. Objectively speaking, Olmo's more talented, no doubt. But what's the point of being talented if half of the season you're injured? But, and again, this is why I insist, we should have never signed Olmo. But I'm the hater, and I'm crazy, and blah, blah, blah. Barca fan says, Mo, I think we need to reinforce our fullbacks for when Balde or Kunde get injured. That's not going to happen. For Kunde, we have Eric Garcia and Hector Fort. And for Balde, we have Gerard Martin and Jofre Torrents. So we have 3 players per position. So the fullbacks is not a priority. Let's see. Not the Gamer says, has there ever been a scandal in a Liga on the same level of the one in Serie A that got Juve relegated? Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I would have to go back and look into this. But I'm not sure. Let's see. Maybe this could be a video, like the biggest scandal. Let me see. And Street Fighter says, ¿Alguna novedad sobre Hugo Alba? The last I heard about Hugo Alba is that he has decided to leave. Something about him not feeling valued, I think. If I'm not mistaken, that's the last I heard about him. Let's see. What else? Let's do a couple more, and then we'll end this. Romain says, hey, Mo, I'm a little late for the live, but thanks for the transfer news. Of course, my friend, it's better late than never. And of course, you can always watch what you missed on repeat once it ends. And the Soya says, how about signing a left back and right back to cover Balde and Kunde? Again, no plans to do that. Kunde has Eric Garcia and Hector Fort as a backup. And Balde has Gerard Martin and Jofre Torrents as their backup. So we have 3 players per position. No need to reinforce. And Ajayi says, I wish we can loan out Noah since his position is already packed up. Nice job, brother. So Barcelona considered the loan option, but since he's not really impressing, like he's not really developing, like he's been at Barca Athletic for 2 seasons now, and Barcelona still think that he's just not fitting in. It's kind of like, all right, well, if you can't fit in Barca Athletic, then how are you going to fit in the first team? So it's kind of like, they look at it as better market opportunity where just sell them, make some money, and then use that money to sign someone else. Let's see what else. And Nicholas says, I think we should sell Martin and bring back Grimaldo to the club. No, I would much rather have Gerard Martin over Grimaldo. Grimaldo is 29 years old. Versus Gerard Martin is, 23 or 22, 23, I think. Grimaldo is the same profile as Balde, more of an attacking fullback, where Gerard Martin is a lot more defensive left back. So it just doesn't make sense to sell a young player who Flick believes has a lot of promise and could become, much, much better, for a guy who is reaching the end of his career and who is the similar profile as a player that we already have on the squad. And Full-Time FCB says, how did you think Levy will play in the season? Can he maintain his level? Hopefully Sharky can continue his form. I mean, I think he could. At least he feels confident that he can. The team feels confident that he can. So I don't know if I don't think there's no reason why he shouldn't. I mean, the good thing about being a 9 like Lewy is that you can afford to play a little bit more further into your career because you're not as exhausting yourself as much. Kind of like why goalkeepers can last longer because they don't run as much. But I mean, I did not see Lewy being like the times that Lewy sucked, where I said, all right, Lewy's a ghost this match. It was definitely not because of his shape. It was more like either he wasn't hitting the ball, or maybe he just was a little bit disconnected, or maybe his positioning was off. But it was never like, oh man, this guy looks old, slow, and he just can't keep up. So I think he should be fine. Sanjanko says it could be not about the ego. It might be a negotiation tactic to make sure we can get him and not get played. If you're talking about Nico, here's the thing. And this is how it works at every club. And this is how it's always worked at Barca. You do your analysis, right? And you figure out, all right, this is what we need. This position needs to be reinforced. Okay, who should we sign? You do your analysis. You study the players. All right, here's the list. Our number one is, I don't know, Mo. Okay, we need Mo. I think he should be a good fit. What do? We pick up the phone and say, hey, Mo, do you want to come? Yes or no? Yes? All right, let's make it happen. No? Okay, thanks. Next guy. Hello, do you want to? That's how you do it. Okay? It's not like, oh, you got to make the first step. You better come and give me a hand job because he hurt my feelings. None of that bullshit, okay? It's just pretty straightforward. Is this player what you need? Yes? Okay, you give him a call and ask him, you want to come? Yes or no? This whole like, oh, he better make the first move. Like, what the fuck is this? Let's see. Shinan says, I think some things will change when Nico comes because Rafa as a left winger plays as a second striker, but I don't think Nico would do that. That will reduce the amount of people coming for Yamal. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the thing about we need another why we need a left winger is because right now we don't have that threat from the left. So teams can focus more players on Lamine. But now if you have two players offering that same threat, now teams are going to be in trouble defending, right? Because if you send two guys for Lamine, now you have to send two guys to Nico. Maybe you need three guys on Lamine and two guys on Nico. That's five players that you cannot count on defending. That leaves other guys free, like Pedri, like Rafinha, like Lewy, because now the players who are supposed to be marking these people, they're out there trying to mark Nico and Lamine because they're absolutely cooking your flanks. So, but anyways, that is all, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your comments, your likes, your subscriptions, your generous donations. If you haven't hit the like button yet, make sure you do. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do. It helps the channel continue to grow. And of course, drop a comment. I want to hear you guys' thoughts and opinions about all the news that I shared with you. There are no more videos today. That was all the news. We covered it all. So I will see you guys tomorrow. And as always, Viscarsa.